So we're joined all the way from Dothan, Alabama by my friend, the founder of Mocha Sprout, AI Futurist, published author. So many degrees, I can't even count them. We'll have to ask her. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is our computer science engineering class. I've got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson High School. We're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County schools, including our middle school and high school students, including my good friend Angela Jordan over there at Shirley Simmons Middle School and our YouTube channel. So we thank you so much for taking some time for us today to talk about this incredible field that is going to affect all of us at some point or another. And little did they know, already affects them a lot.
Yes, it is.
All right. So before we get into all you've done in AI, your book and all that, just give us a little bit of background because you have so many degrees, I can't even count them.
Okay. I started off, I went to school for vocational rehabilitation counseling. I worked as a caseworker for a while with DHR. During that time, I started working with students, and I wanted to make an impact on students who were less fortunate or maybe living in poverty. So I decided to go back at that time for education. I went into special ed. I taught as a teacher for a while. Then I became a school administrator. And now I'm also a director of special education, as well as I do own my business, Mocha Sprout. So that's kind of how my life took shape. Um, it definitely wasn't laid out in a linear path. It was definitely different. So that's how I am where I am tonight today. My interest in technology came about at an early age. I was always interested in technology. In fact, my original idea was to be a computer scientist, but my path, it did change. So I ended up getting my doctorate in instructional technology. And at that time, I was interested in web accessibility and just making sure that websites were accessible for people with disabilities, just making sure that they could access those sites and they could access the content and that there wouldn't be a challenge when they got onto websites. So that's kind of how I got started. Now I'm very interested in AI. I've always been interested in bias. And I've always kind of focused on Black women, but all marginalized groups face bias. So that's kind of where I am now with bias and AI.
Yeah, and I think it's so great, and I mention you all the time. I know I name dropped you Monday, but
Okay.
this is why what you do is important because even me teaching at a all black school was not thinking about this, and it wasn't intentional. It obviously wasn't because I had evil in my heart or anything, but it was just something that I didn't think about because your whole book is about it's called unconscious algorithms. So
Yes.
people in these fields, in these AI fields, especially with health informatics being bigger in the health science field, with AI being used to diagnose diseases, to determine prescriptions, the programmers of these AIs are majority white men, and they just don't have the experience with health risk in the Black community, the Hispanic community, or health risk for women. So people are falling through the cracks. And like we said, it's unintentional, but this shows why we need so many more of our kids to get involved in AI and to learn AI.
Yes, as you said, there are homogeneous groups of people who are looking at the data for AI, and it's very important that we do have diverse mindsets. As you said, also when you look at healthcare, you have health disparities, you have diseases that are not being diagnosed, mainly because of the data that's in the AI that is diagnosing those diseases. So these are all things that we need to be aware of. And like I said, it's unintentional. Just like with bias, most of it is unintentional. But if you don't know these things and if you don't have diverse perspectives speaking for you, you don't have any ideas. So it's just very difficult for a homogeneous group of people to put data out and content out for a whole group or different groups of people. It's just difficult if you don't have those mindsets, diverse mindsets. So
Absolutely. And now when we have our young people that listen to this and they say, "Well, I want to kind of get involved in this, but I'm not sure if I really want to go to college." But what are some ways they can they can start learning AI skills to be good AI professionals?
I think coding, you can learn coding now if you want to get into AI. A lot of the AI, the data sets and the machine intelligence and all of that, you can take classes. Just being aware of what AI is, I think that's the main thing. A lot of times when we think about AI, we don't really think about the fact that we have Siri, we have Alexis, yeah, Amazon. So I'm so used to Siri. So, but yeah, we have those AI assistants. We have predictive text when you're writing a text message. There's predictive text. So just being aware of those type things and knowing that all of that is related to AI, I think that's major. Just making sure that you know the things that lead to AI and AI bias. Those are all just beginning steps. So I think any of that would help. Just studying, making connections, getting out there, talking to people, being informed, wanting to make social impact. It's a lot of things that are out here and just wanting to make a difference. So I think that's one way to quickly get involved.
Yeah, and another thing is, the media loves to scare everybody, saying AI is going to take our jobs. And when we had Dr. Tanner on Monday, we talked about that's really not true. The
No,
types of skills needed for these jobs are going to change.
exactly.
For example, I have a young man here with me right now who's always been interested in trucking. We're going to need humans, but these humans in the truck are going to need AI skills. So
Exactly.
talk about some of these skills and advances that you're seeing in AI that especially our middle schoolers 10 years from now, when they're getting ready to graduate from college, it may be some things that they haven't even heard of yet that are going to be on the forefront.
Yeah, and it's as simple as writing an email. I mean, so many people are using AI to write emails, AI to write letters. So just having those basic skills, if it takes you 5 minutes to write a letter, and then you can write a letter in 3 seconds with AI, just being aware that you have that tool available to write that letter or send that email, it just saves so much time. And that could go for anyone in any field. So just being prepared, not being afraid, like you said, of AI. Do not be afraid of it. It's coming. So we just got to kind of embrace it and see how we can make it work best for us. I know in education, AI is coming. They're using AI as personal assistants for students to create individualized educational plans. So just making sure that you are aware of all that and using those tools that are available is the first step. And making sure that with those basic skills, you know what to do so that you can save that time and so that you can be competitive and so that you're not left behind. So that's one thing that I would strongly encourage. Even now, start using it. Don't be left behind. Don't be afraid of it.
Yeah, and one thing, we've already mentioned transportation, we've mentioned healthcare, we've mentioned education. What are some other areas that are going to see some major AI changes and major AI advances? Because I have kids say all the time, "Well, I want to do XYZ. I'm not going to have to deal with AI." Well, yeah, you probably are. So, what are
Yeah,
some of these skills that some of these kids may be interested in? Because everybody's not interested in the tech field, and that's fine. But
exactly.
being able to use tech and maybe even getting a certification while you're in college to go along with
Exactly.
your degree something. So, what are
Exactly.
some of these areas that maybe you wouldn't think of as being more AI driven that are going to see more AI in them in the next few years?
Even if you're in any job where you're in an office setting, you're going to use AI. And that has nothing to do with going to school for technology necessarily. But if you're in an office position, if you're a secretary, if you're a receptionist, you'll use AI to communicate. We have the AI chatbots, we have AI assistants. If you're a cosmetologist, you may want to schedule your clients online. They can go in, they can interact with the chatbot. So that's going to be AI. If you are in healthcare, of course, we talked about healthcare a little as far as the advancements of healthcare, but it's as simple as being an ultrasound technician. There will be AI. So there are so many things that have AI embedded. So if you're not necessarily looking at the tech part of it, in some form or fashion, you will have access to AI. So just learning about AI and the algorithms is very important. So it's not just about the technology, but just knowing the algorithms and the machine learning. So yes, that's very important.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned cosmetology because we have kids, and we've had several kids that have gotten cosmetology licenses here in Mississippi. But there's programs now where they can show a client how their hair would look when it's over. So
Exactly.
really is
Exactly.
a great selling point. So being technologically sound to know these different apps to use that. And then we've also mentioned trucking. There's more and more GPS type apps that give real, everybody knows about Waze that uses AI, but knowing
Yes.
these all these logistical and
Navigation
transportation
system.
systems,
Hmm.
there's going to be all types of AI in that. Now, I mean, this is just my personal opinion. I don't think we're going to see a huge confluence of automatically driven trucks. I just think there's too much money at stake, in my opinion. But the
Yes.
AI is definitely going to be used in the trucking industry. So it's not just going to be the old school, let me get back there behind the wheel. They're going to have some technological skills.
No, for sure. And like you said, I don't think there would be the AI driven trucks, but as you know, we do have the AI driven cars. So there is a possibility, hopefully not. But like you said, there could be a lot of liability with a truck, but we can definitely expect to see something similar. So I would definitely encourage everyone to learn about AI. It's not this is one advancement that truly affects everyone. We have so many different emerging technologies, but AI truly impacts everyone, and it's something that everyone needs to learn. It's moving very rapidly. Even myself at times, I was like, "Oh wow, this has changed from this time." So I mean, it's very rapid. So once you get into it, just be ready to take off with it because there are so many advancements. Um, and I just really wish we had more diverse perspectives. And I think a lot of times, and I say this about the South all of the time, and this is why I appreciate you so much for doing this. But I think a lot of times there's not enough exposure, and there needs
Yeah.
to be more exposure on AI. Even in just having a general conversation with some of the people in my community, there are so many people that do not understand the concept of AI. So it's critical. It's critical and it's dire. So we definitely need some young minds to get involved. We need some young minds to get out there and start speaking up and advocating for diversity in AI.
Yeah, and look, I'm not big on offering a whole lot of personal opinions on this program, but one thing I always stand by, and I have said to the media, is that access in rural communities, especially rural Black communities, was lacking for decades.
Mhm.
And it's not these
Exactly.
kids' fault that their grandparents never had access to this or
Mhm.
their parents never had access to this. Heck, even I'm 42 years old. I didn't have access to a lot of this stuff, but the access in this country is changing. Resources in this country are changing. Opportunities are changing daily. So just because kids haven't seen something, just because nobody that they haven't seen anybody that looks like them do something doesn't mean they can't get into it.
Exactly.
Especially,
Exactly.
we have a lot of English as second language students in our district as well that came here as children of immigrants. There's a huge place for them as well. We need people that speak other languages to get into this AI programming. So
Exactly.
the time has never been greater. Just because your grandparents or parents did XYZ doesn't mean you have to do that.
No, and
There,
times are
just
changing.
be,
Times are
yeah,
changing.
and it's something I always say is you can be the first at something, but you can also be the best at something because
Exactly.
that new mindset could be a change of an app, the way change the a way completely change the way an app is used.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think we need fresh perspectives. The way our grandparents did things, they did the best they knew how at that time. So we have a little bit more knowledge, a little bit more wisdom. So now we can create a better way of life for ourselves. And I think that's also needed. So sometimes just a fresh perspective, you never know where your idea is going to lead. And there's room for everybody. There's room for everybody. There's opportunities for everybody. It's just about taking that first step and believing in yourself and being able to do it.
Yeah, and another thing, and I know we've talked about various industries, but we have a great, and I know Alabama does too. We have a great community college system here in Mississippi that really focuses on CTE and trade education, where
Yeah,
kids can get trades in 1 or 2 years. But even the kids that want to do the trade route, because trades are paying more and more with a way bigger return on investment than a lot of degrees,
exactly.
not all degrees, but a lot of degrees. But even AI is going to be used in these trades.
Yeah,
We have Ingalls Shipbuilding down on the coast that builds so many of our naval and coast guard ships. And they use a lot of welders, a lot of electricians, but they're using more and more AI every day before they ever turn the flame on. So what are some trades that some of these kids may be interested in that are going to see a lot of AI advancements?
and like you said, the welding for sure, construction, all of these fields. I just don't think that there's a field out there that will not be exposed to AI at some point. Um, any type of machine that is computer based, more than likely you're going to have AI embedded. So I just don't see a field right now that's not going to be exposed to AI. Like I said, even a receptionist, you as a receptionist, you're thinking, okay, I don't have to worry about that. But yes, you do have to worry about it. So I just don't see a field where we will not be exposed to AI. For sure, the welding, the construction, healthcare in this industry, we're all going to be exposed to AI. So I think that's just something we have to prepare for. Right now, like I said, it's just so much going on with AI. And even the industries that may not have adopted it in the beginning, now they have no choice but to jump on board or either be left behind. So,
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned construction too, because the way that these landscape people and these construction people can show you what a finished product would look like. We see these renderings all the
yes,
time of finished product. That is AI.
yes.
These architects and these landscapers, they're using AI to show the customer the rendering of what it would look like, and that is a great point. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, and it's amazing what it can do. Like it is amazing to just be able to sit there and just create that house for a family and show them the outcome. And I think that's going to be major as far as the competitiveness. Can you show a family how this house will look compared to your competitor who's down the street? So those are the things that you have to think about. So when we think about AI, we're not just thinking about Siri. We're not just thinking about being able to predict the next Netflix movie that may be similar to, to the ones that you've watched before. So there's just so many things that go into AI that we really need to be aware of.
Yeah. Now, obviously, we'd be remiss, and me being a big business person, we've got to talk about Mocha Sprout,
Yeah.
your organization you have there in Alabama, because even though you're a nonprofit, you're still running a business.
Yeah.
And I have, and this is just something. Even though this is computer science engineering, I think talking entrepreneurship is always important because we need tech entrepreneurs. Because
Yeah.
you can be a great tech mind, you can have a great technical idea, a great technical advancement, but if you can't run a business, you can't make any money off of it. So
Exactly.
so talk about Mocha Sprout, how the idea came about, and what all you guys do there in Alabama and all over the South.
Okay. Originally, like I said, I've always been into bias. I've always looked at the bias of Black girls just from my own experience because I am a Black woman. So I always looked at bias in education, in the workplace, and in technology. So that's kind of how it started with me just talking about unconscious bias and the impact that it has. Then I moved into, like I said, the AI part of it. It has been, I will say that it has been a challenge for me because I'm also a full-time employee. So it has been a challenge, but I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. I have the opportunity to speak to different groups about AI. I have the opportunity to speak to different groups about unconscious bias, about creating cohesive cultures, being able to get along and receive and be receptive of the ideas of diverse groups of people. Um, I have really enjoyed it. I know that whenever I do retire, that this would definitely be the heart of what I do. I would say for anyone that wants to do it, whether you are doing something else, definitely step out and do it. It's going to take preparation, and there are going to be some nights when you do have to stay up a little bit later to get things in order. But if it's something that you love, I truly recommend that you get into it, pursue it. Just be the best you can be at anything that you want to do. I just feel like everybody has the potential to do whatever they want to do. You may not be able to do it as fast as other people, or you may not be able to reach the height that you would in the beginning. But I think it's very possible to have a business as well as a job and do the things that you enjoy. So I definitely would
Yeah,
say it wants to do it.
yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that because something that I've learned just in the last couple of years is that
Mhm.
more and more entrepreneurs are holding on to even a part-time job, not
Yes.
only to keep steady income, but to keep benefits. It's
Yeah.
amazing how much money they can save, especially if they have kids. If a job's going to provide you any type of health insurance discount, that's not the worst idea in the world. And also, when
Exactly.
you serve your community, if you have a passion for serving your customers, I think a lot of not all entrepreneurs, but a lot of entrepreneurs fail when they're just in it for the money. But if you're in it to really serve a community and whatever service you're providing, and you have that business mindset, it is amazing how much more successful you can be because people will see your passion behind it.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel like a job. To me, it doesn't feel like I'm doing something extra. I mean, it's just what I do, and a lot of times it intersects and overlaps. So it's just what I do. I enjoy it. Like now I'm talking to students. So that's part of my profession. So it just all overlaps. I wouldn't trade my life for anything in the world, the way things have fallen into place and the way my journey has been. It hasn't been I couldn't have sat down and thought this out, and it couldn't have played out the way that it did. So I truly think that what I'm doing, I'm meant to do, and I just love what I do.
Yeah, and I'm about to get to their questions, but I'm glad you mentioned that because so many kids, the problem is not that they're not capable. The problem is they don't think that they can do it. Just because you have your parents are this or that, or you grew up here, or you're this color or that color, doesn't mean you can't do it.
It
Like
doesn't
we
mean you
said, there's
can't
never been more resources. There's never been more opportunities than now. So I
exactly.
encourage anybody that's here with me now or seeing this later, if you have that big idea, especially in these tech areas, you need to go for it because the next technological advancement is waiting to be made by somebody.
Exactly. You can definitely do it. Like I said, I'm from South Alabama, so this is where I grew up. I came from a single family home. We lived in poverty, so it is very possible. It's very possible. There is nothing that you cannot do. You just have to stick with it. So I definitely encourage anybody. You can do it.
Absolutely. Now, we are kind of light at school today because we had a football game last night, so a bunch of them didn't come to school.
Oh
But
man.
we're still gonna, we're still going to have this available for all of our
Yeah.
students later. But I do have some questions from the ones that are here today.
Okay.
This is Brian Stevens. He's in ninth grade, and he asked, "What has been the hardest thing you've had to learn while you were learning AI?"
I think patience, because once I feel I know something, there's another advancement. So I'm like, wow, I didn't really get a chance to study this as much as I would like to because there's something else going on. So I
Oh
think
yeah.
patience. AI is moving so fast, so fast. And sometimes it's scary because you don't know you don't know where we're gonna land. But I think that's the biggest thing. And just staying on top of it. You have to constantly stay on top of it and see the newest development. So I think that has been the hardest thing for me. I really like to dive deep into things, and I feel like I can't dive as much as I want to dive into it because once I get there, there's another advancement. So I think that has been the hardest thing for me.
Oh,
But I
big
also
time.
like the challenge of that. So it has been good.
Big time. And like we said, no matter what field you go into, it's going to be something you're going to have to be ready for. And
Exactly.
the businesses that are failing are the ones that refuse to embrace the changes.
Exactly. That's it. And that is a very powerful statement. The ones that are failing are the ones who are refusing to embrace it. So,
This is Rashawn Smith. He's a senior. He's the one I mentioned is really interested in trucking, but has some great technology skills too. So I think he could do well. But he asked, "Do you ever think AI would have a huge part in education? And what other jobs do you see AI really having a big part in?"
it would definitely have a huge part in education. Education is one of the industries that I think they have fully embraced AI. For sure, like I said, the individual learning plans for students, just making sure that you meet them where they are, providing administrative tasks for teachers. So I think that's going to be major. In other industries, like we talked about the construction, just making sure that you have the ability to, use that AI for apps and stuff and show parents, not parents, see, I'm in that mode of education right now, show your clients, render those images of different homes. So yes, I think that AI will be in all fields. In trucking, like we said, we talked about the trucking systems and navigation systems. So yes, there's room for AI in all fields for sure.
All right. Well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for taking some time for us. Literally every time you speak, I learn something new. But a couple things before we go. First of all, tell us where to find your website. You have some great stuff on there. They can buy your book, see all the work you're doing, and can actually can get involved in some stuff. So tell us about your website.
Yep. The website, you can either go to www.mochasprout.org. That would probably be the easiest one, or you can just do drmistydfreeman.com, either one of those. And also you can order the book from the website, or you can go on Amazon and order the book. So you can find me at either one of those. Of course, I'm on LinkedIn. I don't know if everyone has access to LinkedIn, but I'm also on LinkedIn. So I'm pretty easy to find. I think you can even Google me and I pop up somewhere. So I am easy to
Well,
find.
you're
Um,
extremely humble because you've been featured in national publications. So yeah, if you Google you, there's
yes,
plenty of
yes, yes.
information on you.
Yes, I always stay humble, and that's something else. Just stay humble so you can connect to people. I feel like a lot of times the average person does get left behind. Um, like even now, I see how AI is taking off in professional settings, but like the elders of the church or just the common layman, a lot of them don't have the knowledge. They don't have the information. So just passing that information along to just the average person, I think that's what makes a difference because a lot of times those are the people who need to know, and those are the people who it will have the major impact on. So just staying humble, being able to connect, just learning from people. You can always learn from anybody, and you would be surprised just having a conversation with a stranger on the street, how much information you can find out. So
Big time. Now, the last thing before we go, why is it so important for these kids, especially these young black kids, to really, really become as technologically sound and skilled as possible by the time they get out of high school?
it is the future. It is the future, even if you decide you're not going to trade school, even if you decide you're not going to college. If you just want to go to Walmart and get you a job, which there's no problem with that, but you still need to know technology. You cannot progress in this world without knowing anything about technology. You can take classes. Like I said, you don't have to go to college, but you can take classes. You can do certifications online. But technology is definitely our future. We definitely need diversity in technology. Um, a homogeneous group of people cannot create technology for everyone. It's just not possible. But technology does impact everyone, so we need people of all groups, ethnic groups involved in technology. So I encourage you to please learn about technology.
Absolutely. Well, we thank you so much as always for joining us. And I know you got a tight schedule and fit us in, so I really appreciate it. Dr. Misty Freeman just doing so many great things down there in Dothan, Alabama. We thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.
I talk to you soon, buddy.
All righty, bye bye.